अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल। उम्मीद करती हूँ आप सभी खैरियत से होंगे और वीडियोस को भी पसंद कर रहे होंगे। आज की वीडियो में हम हार्डी वेनबर्ग थ्योरम पढ़ने वाले हैं, तो चलते हैं वीडियो की तरफ। द फ्रीक्वेंसी ऑफ द जीनोटाइप ऑफ नॉन इवॉल्विंग पॉपुलेशन आर डिस्क्राइब्ड बाय हार्डी वेनबर्ग थ्योरम। Hardy-Weinberg theorem is named for the two scientists who derived the principle independently in the 1908. It states that the frequency of the alleles and the genotypes in the population gene pool remain constant over the generation unless acted upon the agent other than recombination. So, shuffling of allele due to the meiosis and the random fertilization has no effect on the overall genetic structure of a population. A general formula called the Hardy-Weinberg equation is used for calculating the frequency of the allele and the genotype in the population at equilibrium. For a gene locus where only two alleles occur in a population, the population genetics use the letter P to represent the frequency of one allele and letter Q to represent the frequency of the other allele. In the imaginary wildflower population, P is equal to 0.8 and less than 7 equal to 0.2. Note that the P plus Q is equal to 1, that combined the frequency of all possible allele must account for 100% of the genes that locus in the population. If there are only two alleles and we know that the frequency of the one, the frequency of the other can be calculated with the following formula. When the gametes combine their alleles to form the zygote, the probability of generating an double A genotype is P2. In the wildflower population, P is equal to 0.8 and P2 is equal to 0.64. The probability of an A sperm fertilizing an A worm produce an double A zygote. देन हमारे पास यहाँ पर कुछ जो है डेफिनेशन दी हुई हैं, जिसमें हमारे पास म्यूटेशन, माइग्रेशन, जेनेटिक ड्रिफ्ट, नॉन रैंडम मेटिंग एंड सिलेक्शन की आ जाती है। तो सिलेक्शन बेसिकली क्या है? सम इंडिविजुअल लीव बिहाइंड मोर प्रोजेनी देन अदर्स। द रेट एट विच दे डू सो इज अफेक्टेड बाय द इनहेरिटेड सर्कमस्टांसेस। This is called selection. Selection can be artificial selection and natural selection. In artificial selection, the breeders select for the desired characters. In natural selection, the environment plays the role, thus affecting the proportion of the gene in population. Non-random mating क्या होती है? Inbreeding is the most form. It doesn't alter the allele frequency but lessens the proportion of the heterozygote individual with the certain genotype sometimes mate with one another more commonly than would be expected on a random basis. This is called non-random mating, causing the frequency of particular genotype to differ greatly from those predicted by the one largely Weinberg principle. देन हमारे पास जेनेटिक ड्रिफ्ट आ जाता है. इट इज़ द चेंज इन द फ्रिक्वेंसी ऑफ द अलील एट अ लोकस डेट अकर बाय चांस इन स्मॉल पॉपुलेशन. सच फ्लक्चुएशन में लीड टू द लॉस ऑफ अ पार्टिकुलर अलील. दिस में अकर इन स्मॉल पॉपुलेशन when a few individuals fail to reproduce and then genes are lost from the population. then हमारे पास आ जाती है टर्म माइग्रेशन. A very important agent of the change migration locally act to prevent the evolutionary change by preventing the population that exchange the members from diverging from one another. Immigration and immigration of the members of a population can cause disturbance in the gene pool. अब हम बात कर लेते हैं endangered species. Extinction has been fate of the most plant and the animal species. It is the natural process that will continue. In the recent years, however, the threat to welfare of the wild plant and animals has increased dramatically, mostly as a result of habitat destruction. Tropical rainforest is the most threatened areas on the earth have been reduced to 44% of their original extent. In certain areas such as Ecuador, forest coverage has been reduced by 95%. The decrease in the habitat has resulted in the tens of the thousands of extinctions. Accurately estimating the number of extinction is impossible in the area like rainforest, where the taxonomists have not even described most species. We are losing species that we do not know exist, and we are losing resources that could lead to new medicine. foods, and textiles. Other causes of extinction could climate change, population, and invasion from foreign species habitat other than the rainforest. Grassland, grassland and marshes, desert, coal reefs are also being seriously threatened. अगर आपको वीडियो अच्छी लगी हो तो ज़रूर कमेंट सेक्शन में बताइएगा। इजाज़त चाहूँगी। अल्लाह हाफिज़।